Hey everyone, Cap from TCG Break here, bringing you my Endymion Pendulum combo showcase for the April 2021 format. If you have not already, feel free to check out my Endymion deck profile, which I will link below. This video aims to showcase the basic plays this deck is capable of, as well as to further enhance your understanding for the deck's many strengths and weaknesses. So with that being said, without further ado, let's get into it. Before we get into the combo portion of this video, I figured it was important to touch upon the deck's many strengths and weaknesses, as well as scale its performance against many of the current meta matchups. I'll start with the deck's strengths against the most common hand traps, as well as side deck cards. Cards like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring and Infinite Impermanence have very little impact to this deck as a whole, and Artifact Lancia really has no impact to the deck whatsoever, since we aren't banishing any cards. This deck also performs rather well against back row removal cards such as Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster. Most of the time you're trying to set up an unbreakable type board on your first turn, of which most likely will include an Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon to negate the Lightning Storm or Harpy's Feather Duster should they have it. Moving on to the cards in the middle, we have Psyframe Gear Gamma, Nibiru the Primal Being, as well as Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched certainly falls in the same category as Lightning Storm, though if they are able to bait out your Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon negate, Evenly Matched can certainly be a devastating card. Psyframe Gear Gamma can certainly hinder your plays, but most of the time will not outright stop your turn, and Nibiru can also be devastating. However, you are able to play around it. For example, if you would special summon the Mythical Beast Jackal King off of Servant of Endymion's scale effect. And as for the deck's weaknesses, Drolan Lockbird can definitely hurt this deck, as a majority of our plays revolve around adding cards from the deck to the hand in order to increase our spell counters on the field and further facilitate our plays. Possibly two of the most problematic cards for this deck are Dark Ruler No More as well as Forbidden Droplet. These are both very powerful cards, of which you are unable to respond to, and if used against us, can pretty much allow our opponent to play without any major interruption. Superpolymerization is a very strong card against many matchups, though you are able to play around it to a certain extent, but it should certainly be taken into consideration nonetheless. And Triple Tactics Talent is a very strong card to play against this deck as well. Again, since a majority of our negates are monster effects, your opponent may be able to benefit off of Triple Tactics Talent if they are able to bait out all of your negates. Now moving on to the various deck matchups in our current meta. First we have Dinosaurs, which are not that problematic to play against. Since a majority of their effects are monster effects, we are able to negate their effects of Miscellaneousaurus, Soul-Eating Oviraptor, as well as Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Next we have Invoked or Invoked Dogmatica. Just as with the Dinosaur matchup, you shouldn't be too terribly concerned when going up against this deck, as most of the time going first, you are able to set up enough negates to stop their turn outright, and going second, you're usually able to outpower their board, though this will depend on what they have on the field, especially if they would splash a Shaddoll engine into their deck, as the ability to bring out El Shaddoll Winda using Shaddoll Schism is certainly something to take into consideration when playing against this matchup. That moves us on to our next matchup, which represents any sort of Shaddoll variant deck. Again, the most concerning card when playing against this deck is the El Shaddoll Winda, as the Endymion strategy is fairly reliant on special summons, though you may be able to set up your Pendulum scales fairly easily and Pendulum summon cards with higher attack than Winda, such as Jackal King or Endymion. The next matchup represents any form of Dragon Link deck. The most concerning part in this matchup is that they are able to set up a Dragon Buster lock through the use of DMZ Dragon, which will lock us out of our extra deck plays, not to mention the multiple negates the deck is able to put up, as well as its ability to play and further extend through multiple interruptions. And last but not least, I have control decks that use the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, as well as the AA Zeus Sky Thunder. Typically, Dragoon might be used in a deck such as Guru Control, which in combination with cards such as Summon Limit, can be very devastating to our plays overall. Zeus represents the most popular control deck in our current format, being that of Zoodiac Eldritch. Zeus definitely hinders our deck's performance and ability to combo off, as it can send all of our resources from the field to the graveyard before we are able to build up enough spell counters to continue our plays. So with these strengths and weaknesses in mind, let's get into the combo showcase portion of this video. To start this combo showcase, I figured it was important to touch upon the plays available in order to get into your Servant of Endymion, which in most cases helps you further facilitate your plays in the extra deck. Of course, you have cards such as Spell Power Mastery, which allow you to add it directly from your deck to the hand, but you also have cards such as Magical Abductor and the Mythical Beast Engine at your disposal as well. I will first show off how you are able to get into Servant using the Mythical Beast Engine. This simply requires Mythical Institution as well as Mythical Beast Master Cerberus. So I'll start by activating the Mythical Institution, then activating Master Cerberus in the scale. I will use its effect to destroy itself, to add the Jackal King to our hand. Mythical Institution will now gain 2 spell counters, since a face-up Mythical Beast Pendulum monster card was destroyed by a card effect. Now I will activate Jackal King in the scale, and use its effect to destroy itself, and special summon the Master Cerberus from our extra deck. Institution will of course gain 2 more spell counters. And now we can use Institution's effect, decreasing it to 1 spell counter to add the Servant from our deck to our hand. So with this, we have Servant as well as 3 additional cards in our hand to further our plays. We also have Mythical Institution with 1 spell counter, so it cannot be destroyed by a card effect, as well as Master Cerberus, which will become useful as we continue our plays and generate more spell counters, as if there are 4 or more spell counters on the field, Master Cerberus cannot be destroyed by card effects. Now I will showcase how you are able to get into your Servant of Endymion through the use of Magical Abductor, Magical Citadel, as well as pretty much any spell cards you may run in the deck. In this case, I will be using the Spellbook engine. I will start with the normal summon of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, which will allow us to add the Spellbook of Secrets to our hand. Then I will activate the Magical Abductor, activating the Citadel, which will give Abductor 1 spell counter. I'm then going to activate the effect of Spellbook of Secrets to add the Spellbook of Knowledge to our hand. Abductor as well as Citadel will gain 1 counter. Now I will activate the Spellbook of Knowledge, sending the Spellbook Magician of Prophecy to the grave and drawing us 2 cards. Abductor will gain 1 additional counter, as well as Magical Citadel, and now we can use Magical Abductor's effect, removing 3 spell counters, to add the Servant of Endymion to our hand. With this, we have Servant as well as 5 other cards in our hand. We also have 2 counters on Magical Citadel, which upon activation of Servant in the scale will give us the 3 counters we need in order to use our Servant's effect, in which we can special summon Servant, as well as 1 monster from our deck that we can place a spell counter on. With the 2 previous brief combos in mind, let's get into a test hand and see exactly what this deck is capable of. Do keep in mind that this is taking into consideration that your opponent has no interruptions on your turn. So we'll start by shuffling the deck, just so you know that this is random. And we'll start with our draw. This is certainly an average hand at best, but we'll see exactly how far we can take this. I'll start with the activation of Magister in the scale, Then normal summon our Magician of Prophecy. Then I'm going to activate its effect and add Spellbook of Secrets to our hand. Now I will activate Secrets to add the knowledge to our hand. Magister will gain 1 counter. And now I will activate Knowledge, sending the Magician of Prophecy to draw 2 cards. This of course will give Magister 1 additional counter. And now that we have Spell Power Mastery, I'll simply add the Servant to our hand. This will give Magister 2 counters. Now I will activate the Servant in the other scale, giving Magister an additional counter. And now I will activate the Pot of Desires. And we'll draw 2. This will give Magister another spell counter, as well as 1 spell counter for Servant. At this point, I believe we will have to Pendulum summon, so I'll summon the Mythical Beast Garuda, as well as the Endymion. Now using Garuda as well as Endymion, I will go into the Daybreaker. Daybreaker will gain 1 spell counter since it was link summoned. Now we have a target to use Magister's effect, so we will special summon the Magister, as well as Endymion. And each of them will gain 1 spell counter. Daybreaker will also gain 1 spell counter since Endymion was special summoned to its arrow. Now I will activate the Mythical Institution, giving our Servant 1 additional counter. Using Magister and Daybreaker, I will link summon into Selene. Selene will gain spell counters equal to the number of spells on the field or in the graveyard. We have 4 in the grave and 2 on the field, so Selene will have 6 counters. Now using Selene's effect, we'll reduce its counters by 3, and special summon the Magician of Prophecy. And now I will activate Master Cerberus in the scale, which will give Servant an additional counter. Now I'm able to use Servant's effect to special summon it, as well as Reflection from my deck. Now I am able to activate the effect of Master Cerberus to destroy it, and add the Jackal King to hand. This will give Mythical Institution 2 counters. And now I will activate the Jackal King in scale and use its effect to destroy itself, and special summon the Master Cerberus. Institution will gain 2 additional counters. Now using Selene, as well as the Magician of Prophecy, I will special summon the Cross Sheep from our extra deck. And I will overlay Endymion and Reflection of Endymion for the Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. Now linking away the Absolute and Servant, I will special summon the IP Masquerena. Then activating Odd Eye's Absolute Dragon's effect, since it was sent to the graveyard, to special summon the Odd Eye's Vortex Dragon. Now activating Cross Sheep's effect, since a fusion monster was special summoned to one of its arrows, we will special summon the Magician of Prophecy. And now we will link away for our second copy of Selene. Selene will gain 5 spell counters. Then activating Selene's effect, we will special summon the Endymion from our graveyard. And immediately link away the Selene as well as Endymion for the Apollousa. And Apollousa would have 2 counters. That pretty much rounds out our turn. We have 2 quick effect monster negates through the use of Apollousa. We have a quick effect Omni negate with Odd Eye's Vortex Dragon, as well as IP Masquerena's quick effect to link summon, and Mythical Beast Master Cerberus, which cannot be destroyed by card effects since there are 4 spell counters on the field. We also have Pot of Desires for a follow-up play should we need it, and 4 spell counters on Mythical Institution, so it's able to protect itself using its own effect, as well as having the ability to add Magical Abductor or Servant from our deck or our face-up extra deck. To round out this combo showcase, I will perform 1 additional test hand. So I'll start with the draw. I'll start by activating Magical Citadel, then activating the Mythical Institution, giving Citadel 1 spell counter. Then I will activate the Master Cerberus and the Scale, giving Citadel an additional spell counter. Using Cerberus effect, I'm going to destroy it to add the Jackal King to hand. Institution will gain 2 spell counters. Then I'm going to activate the Jackal King in Scale, giving Citadel 1 additional counter. Using Jackal King's effect to special summon the Master Cerberus, giving Institution 2 additional counters. I will activate the effect of Mythical Institution, removing 4 counters to add the Magical Abductor to hand. Then I will activate the Servant in the Scale. This will give Master Cerberus 2 counters, as well as Citadel 1 counter. Now using the effect of Servant through the use of Citadel's effect, I'm going to special summon it, removing 3 spell counters, as well as 1 copy of Reflection of Endymion. Each will gain 1 spell counter. Now activating Magical Abductor in the Scale, Cerberus will gain 2 spell counters. Citadel will gain 1. Now I will activate the effect of Spell Power Mastery, adding the Endymion to hand. This will give Cerberus 2 counters, Citadel 1 counter, and I'm going to use its effect to give Magical Abductor an additional counter on top of its normal counter it gains for each spell card activation. Now I will activate the Endymion in the Scale, giving Abductor 1 counter, Citadel 1 counter, as well as Master Cerberus 2 counters. Using the effect of Endymion, I'm going to remove 4 counters from Master Cerberus, as well as 2 from Citadel, to special summon it from the Scale, and then target the Master Cerberus, but it cannot be destroyed since it has 4 or more spell counters. Now using Endymion and Reflection, I will overlay for the Absolute Dragon. Now using Master Cerberus and Servant, I will link into the Crowley, activating its effect. We will reveal these secrets, knowledge, and Magician of Prophecy. Our opponent will randomly choose one. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Secrets is good. I'm first going to activate Magical Abductor's effect, adding the Endymion so we're able to complete our scales for the Pendulum summon. Now I will activate the Spellbook of Secrets, adding the Magician of Prophecy to hand. Abductor will gain 1 counter, and Citadel will also gain 1 counter. We have not yet normal summoned, so I'm going to normal summon the Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, activating its effect to add the Spellbook of Knowledge. Going to activate the Spellbook of Knowledge, sending the Magician of Prophecy to draw 2 cards. Abductor will gain 1, as well as the Citadel. Now using Absolute as well as Crowley, we will link into the Cross Sheep, activating Absolute's effect since it was sent to the graveyard, to special summon the Vortex. We're going to activate Cross Sheep's effect since a fusion monster was special summoned to its arrow, and special summon the Magician of Prophecy. Now using the Magician of Prophecy as well as Cross Sheep, we will link into the Selene. Selene will gain counters equal to the number of spells on the field and in the graveyards. So Selene will gain 6 counters in total. Now I will activate Magister in the scale. Abductor will gain 1. Citadel will gain 1. Now activating Selene's effect to remove 3 spell counters, and special summon Endymion. Now I will activate our Pot of Desires. Magical Abductor will gain 1 counter. Citadel will gain 1, as well as Magister. Now using Selene as well as Endymion, I will link into the Apollousa, which will have 2 monster negates. Now we will Pendulum summon Endymion, the Endymion from our extra deck, as well as Jackal King. Now using both Endymions, we will link into the IP Masquerena. And from here we will pretty much pass turn. With this we have Magical Abductor with 4 counters, which we can use in our next turn should we need to. We have Magical Citadel with 6 counters to help us possibly use Magister's effect on the following turn. We have Jackal King with no counters, though as soon as our opponent activates a spell card, you will be able to use its quick effect monster negate, We also have Apollousa for 2 monster negates. We have Odd-Eye's Vortex Dragon as our Omni negate, simply by shuffling one of our Pendulum monsters from our face-up extra deck into our deck, as well as IP Masquerena, which could be used to go into Nightmare Cerberus, Nightmare Phoenix, or Nightmare Unicorn, as well as 2 cards in hand for our following turn. As shown in this test hand, the deck is quite capable of putting up a rather intimidating board, though this should be said that the end board is typically dictated by the cards which you are dealt, as well as the various draws along the way. That's all I have for this video. As always, if you enjoyed this combo showcase and would like to see more like it, feel free to give us a like and subscribe. Feel free to leave any suggestions regarding changes you would make to the deck, as well as any lines of play in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, until the next one, have a nice day.